Crump, my favorite fall fragrance. You're going to have to see. I'm going to film that video today, so you'll see very soon. Sensualize, hello, hello. Scent Lounge, hey. Sweden's in the house. Good to see you. Hello from Germany. Hello. Okay. What is this? So we're waiting on Christophe. Let me see if he's in here. I'm so happy to see everyone. This is exciting. I probably don't seem excited, but I am. I promise. T. Sweezy, what's up? Good to see you. Bayana, hello. Jamie. Mama Crosby, good to see you. Beagle Boy, GTS. Zinkin. Hello from Korea. Oh, hello. Okay. Hello in Portland, yeah. Real, I'm actually in the Portland area too. So definitely hoping for the rain as well. Okay, so I think Christophe is here. For some reason, I cannot access the pull-up menu like I could before. Christophe, if you wouldn't mind leaving a comment. For some reason, I cannot access the menu to show the requests. I'm just clicking it and it's doing nothing. Technology cannot be too easy. Sense of wood, hello. So, okay. Here's Christophe. Hello, good afternoon.
Ah, voilà. Perfect.
How are you, sir?
Good, 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 good.
Good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And thank you to everyone else for being here. This is really exciting. The plan is to have a riveting conversation today about possibly controversial issues. We will see. Talking about ethics.
So I have my little map here of what we discussed, and then we can do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, talking about ethics and perfumery. Now, the first thing I'd like to touch on is the code of ethics, which is kind of at the face of things right now. And I would love to know, what that means to you, and how did you come about becoming kind of at the front of this movement?
So, because I'm coming from other areas, I have to say, so I was a lot in chemistry, and I was also in some academical stuff. Also, when you look at some scientific studies, how they are very strict with ethical reviews. When you want to even just send questionnaires out. I started already at school when I was, as I said, some academic commissions. And then at Procter & Gamble, where I started perfumery, but I was a lot in contact with their regulatory services and many, many other departments at Procter & Gamble. And when you deal, also you can study what is done in music. You know music very well, and you know that it's not perfect. But when you're a DJ or you're a radio station and you want to play some music or use some music, there are quite some rules and regulations. And so when I came into perfumery and I see that people use the work of others without any, like in plain daylight. So of course, if you ask anybody, no one does it. Officially, no one does it. When you see the facts, is that everybody uses some analysis from other people, and whether the perfumers do it themselves or the clients are asking for it because there is a success on the market, and so they say they want the same. Plus, you see on the Instagram, we see that regularly, some advertising from companies that bluntly are making copies. You see these ads all the time now. It's like, oh, why are you spending $100 on a bottle of perfume? We are doing it for $25, and it smells just like Aventus. It smells just like Polo Blue. It smells just like any fragrance. That would not be possible in music, that you do a copy in plain daylight and even advertise it as such.
Yes.
So from the beginning, I was like, we have to do something. We have to do something. It's a very complex problem. And so I've been thinking, and I said, I need to start doing something. So I started to write things down. And when I launched the Zoo, and maybe people know the Zoo, this brand. So this is my own brand.
Yes.
And with that, I can do the things the way I want them to do them, because I'm the only one deciding what is done and what is not done.
Yes.
So when we launched the Zoo in 2017, from the beginning, I said, we're going to have a zoo police. You know, in America, you love polices. So you have the Harvard police, the MIT police, the post office police, the metro police. You have a police for everything. So it's a very, it's a bit hot here. I removed the AC because otherwise it's a bit loud. So I'm a little bit hot at times. Let me, one second.
If you need to turn it on and off or anything.
No, then it's a bit loud. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
So I said we're going to have a zoo police. And so the zoo police is to introduce this, is to make sure we respect a certain ethic in perfumery. And then from this, I said, now I need to bring some people on board. So this year, what I've done is I contacted the people I knew already. I had to start somewhere. And ask them if they agree. We even polished the code of ethics with the input of everyone. And we've published that like maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And now we are thinking about the next steps. So we will be announcing some next steps. One of them, for instance, for you also as an Instagrammer, it's going to be very important. We're actually going to split the code of ethics in 2 parts. One is going to be for perfumers, a bit like the doctors or the lawyers have a very specific code of ethics because of their profession. So we are going to separate that. And I'm going to take this with the International Society of Perfumers so that we edit that code and make it even more specific for perfumers. And then we are going to split it, and another team is going to take the code, which is going to be more to be applied for people out, not perfumers.
Yes.
So like if you're not a doctor, or if you're not a musician or music composer and you want to use music, or you report about music, you have some other rules if you wish. And so we're going to split that. So that I think that will be also better, because some things apply differently to different people. So this is already one consequence of this teamwork we've been doing. So we'll announce more of that. But we have to do this.
Yes.
So what I want to mention is that if we ask the perfume industry if there's an ethic, they all have a code of conduct as corporations. If you ask Estée Lauder, if you ask IFRA, Givaudan, Firmenich. But that code of conduct is more a corporation style code of conduct, meaning we will employ everybody independent from their skin color, independent from their gender. So, you know, the general corporation style code of conduct we do have in the perfume industry. But here, what the industry doesn't have, whether it's corporations or niche perfumers, is a specific ethic for perfumery. We have to stop doing some practices that we've been doing for the past 400 years because we are secretive, and so it's very convenient to continue doing them. But this is over. We have to stop that.
Yes. Yes, and speaking of secretive and secrecy, you know, that seems to be at the heart of a lot of terrible things with the industry, and you've spoken out about that. And you know, specifically talking about, I think it's the 4th clause in the code, talking about anti-fog. you know, in terms of scent descriptions, you know, that are reliable and descriptive, and letting the consumer know. It's like, if it's in there, we're going to tell you, you know, and being transparent about ingredients, you know, for one, and that's big. Now, I know there's a big component of public education when it comes to that, and that's something that is lacking. You know, what are your thoughts on that, on the public knowing or getting the opportunity to know what is actually in perfumes, the money that is going into it and whatnot?
Yeah, so it's interesting you asking that, because there are actually still, I would say, half, maybe even more than half of people in the industry, including perfumers, that are saying, you know what, the public does not need to know more. I totally disagree. And first of all, show me one industry outside of perfumery that's still running on so much secrets, and where educating the public did not bring more to the industry. My goal is, and my vision is, that if the public knows more, the public will be more demanding, but the public will also be more interested in things that are more creative. You know, when people know the least, if you know the least about food, you buy cheap cheese, you buy cheap
Yes.
stuff. If you start knowing more about coffee, look at the development of coffee. Well, I don't know your age, but at least me, I saw that in my generation, where people were not we are not picky about their coffee, their tea, their wine, their whiskey, and see how the industry in those industries went from this to this. Like,
Yes.
when you know more, you spend more, but it's not just putting more money, it's putting more quality. You ask for more challenging projects, you want more creative stuff, etc. So one disease, and everybody complains about our industry, is that it's not creative enough. It's a lot of Me Too. I have to say, since the 90s, I haven't seen many more a lot of creative structures. The duty-free smells always of that soup, and this is also not normal. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Can you imagine going in a whiskey place and you go in there and it just smells of caramel and cheap drinks, and you see what I mean?
Yes.
So it's gross. The problem is that the industry is doing quite well. And there was a consultant at the French Foundation the other day, when she talked to the audience, that's one thing she said: the big problem of the French industry is that it's doing well. And so they are not challenged to revamp things. The niche perfumery, and then people like you doing some Instagrams like that, like I've never seen in 20 years in perfumery, I've never seen a debate on stage in the official World Perfumery Congress about ethics in perfumery. You would never have 20 years of medical congresses without a debate on stage about ethical boards in the medical industry, or royalty system in the music industry. You know that every 5 years that comes up, there are new systems. There was a system for a while, then now with Spotify and the other ones, there's another system that was brought in place. The industries are looking for new systems. We are not like that, and we do need that. We do need that, as I say, for the public to have access to better things. We also need that because things are secrets. People don't know what's inside their perfumes. I would say I am not in favor of publishing all fragrance formulas, because we don't have any copyright protection so far. Which you have in music, which they have in the publishing industry for books and for movies.
Yes.
Till we have that, it's going to take a while to have those laws. The International Society of Perfumers is working on that, but it's going to take a while. You have to go to an assembly and the house and a vote, and it takes a while. Till we have that, I'm not in favor of publishing formula. However, we should communicate some data about the formulas to show we do have this in there. And why I'm saying this, because right now, if people would know, when the brand say, oh, we have this lovely jasmine from India, well, many times they have tiny amounts just to say it's there. And in fact, it's helping the farmers in India, but not really. And we have to stop that. So now the brands, I want the public also to put the brands on the spot and say, okay, you're mentioning this, show us. How much do you have in there? And if it's only 0.2% or below, forget it. It's just there to say they have it. but it does not really make a difference. And we
Mm.
want to help the farmers. We want to help the chemists, because the
Yes.
chemists also make things sustainable. And we want to help the perfumers. The perfumers are not rewarded like the architects or like the musicians. So it's like a whole group of creative people and scientific people or agriculture people that now have to be helped much more than the brands. Right now, the brands are much more held by perfumery than the creators and the farmers.
Mm.
This has to be reversed now, and
Mm.
the public should know. The public should know where they help the perfumers much more and where they help merchandising, meaning the brand name, much more. So this has to be said also, and we deserve the same treatment as any other creative industry.
Oof.
Yes, voilà. So that goes far. We deserve the same treatment as other creative industry.
Yes, my goodness. Wow. I mean, you know, the fact that it is the way that it is, you know, maybe, I don't know if it's futile to even ask, but what are your thoughts on like how did it become this way? How did so many things that happen in other industries as common practice escape this?
I'm thinking because, so one big thing, so we can see from the beginning, etc. There are two things. First of all, perfumery is an expensive art, and perfumery requires a lot of logistics. So I love the fact that in music, it's very rare that a music connoisseur is interviewing a perfumer. But I think it's very, very interesting because there are a lot, poetry and music I find are extremely good to compare with perfumery.
Yeah.
A perfume is not a whole book, but a perfume is like a small poem or it's like a song, you know?
Yeah.
So in music, the notes, you don't need to have a steady supply, fresh, of your notes every day coming from 50 countries around the world.
Yes.
I have to tell you, a perfume factory holds between 3,000 to 5,000 ingredients. A perfumer's lab holds between 500 to 1,500 ingredients. And they come from around the world.
Mm.
That means also 3,000, sometimes 5,000 suppliers you have to deal with. And they have to be fresh. After 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you have to replace extra. So it's a nightmare of logistics.
Yeah.
And you write all your songs with 88 notes. If you have a piano, it's 88 notes. With 88 ingredients, you go nowhere in perfumery.
Mm-hmm.
So we need all these ingredients.
Yeah.
And they are expensive. For us, $100 a pound, $3,000 a pound is extremely common. It's not special. It's totally like I go to my perfume supermarket, between $100 a pound to $3,000 a pound is totally common perfume ingredient pricing. Voilà.
Mm.
So that's one thing. And another thing is that from very early on, fashion took a grasp on the perfume industry.
Yeah.
And the perfume industry found it easy to just sell to fashion brands, and then the fashion brand do the marketing to the public. So number one, for independent perfumers, that logistic is a nightmare if you're independent. So it's easier to be inside a conglomerate who organizes the ingredients for you. And the second thing is from early on, which is in fact from the 1910 and 1920s with Paul Poiret and second Coco Chanel, the perfume industry has catered very much to the fashion brands. Now, imagine you want to buy a song. What you do is you go to Yves Saint Laurent to buy your music. Can you imagine? You'll be like, huh? You go to Armani to buy your music. You'll be like, huh? You go to Coach bags and Hermes bags to buy your music. Do you think something is wrong if you are a creative industry? But this is what it is.
Yes.
This is what it is. So fine that the fashion brands are clever. They found with perfume, and it's very well known. I'm not saying anything secret here. It's very well known. If you watch Shark Tank, I can send the link one day. I need to write about that. the Shark Tank people are, you know, it's very well known. The fragrance industry is to get the oil the cheapest you can. You put in a bottle, you package it, you resell it. And for the brand, it's a cash cow, very easy to
Yeah.
get as a fashion brand or a handbag brand or a shoe brand. I want to buy my music. I go to my cobbler. I go to my shoemaker to buy my music. You'll be like, huh? Yeah, but people go to Jimmy Choo to buy music. On top of that, Jimmy Choo packages very cheap music to sell it as a Jimmy Choo price, yet inside
Yes.
what they have is terrible. Same
Yes.
with Van Cleef. Van Cleef is a very good jeweler, very prestigious jeweler. The fragrances have nothing to do with the jewelry.
Mm.
And I wish Van Cleef would say what they have in their perfume, your jaw would drop. They don't have the amount of diamonds inside their perfume, like Jasmine
Yes.
Absolute, that they would have on their rings and their beautiful jewelry.
Yes.
So think that. And now I want to tell your people and people on Instagram and everywhere, now guys, when you buy a perfume, you go to a perfumer. So Guerlain, they have their perfumer.
Mm-hmm.
Chanel, interestingly enough, they have their own perfumer. So
Mm-hmm.
fair enough, they have their own perfumer department.
Yes.
Estee Lauder, they're not a fashion brand. They don't have their perfumers, but it's an interesting situation. I have to say they respect perfumery more than others.
Mm.
And they are not a fashion brand. You don't pay for fashion first and then go to niche perfumers. And then they also, like Hermes, they also have their own perfume department.
Yes.
So when you want to buy a real perfume, go to someone that has a perfumer in-house or that
Yes.
is a perfumer. That would be already the first thing the public could do to increase the knowledge and to make sure that the money they pay for the bottle goes to the perfumer, the perfumery, the art of perfumery. That would be a thing of connoisseur to do, you know?
Yeah.
And it should show what brands are in fact merchandising and what brands are dealt with where you have real perfumery behind. There are a few fashion brands that you can say, yeah, they've done some interesting perfumes, like L'Odyssée will always be L'Odyssée and a fabulous fragrance. Angel by Mugler, and then a few new, like Galop, bon, actually it's from Hermes, they have their own perfumer, so
Mm-hmm.
that confirms what I'm saying. But there are a few, like I know Tom Ford is also very close to the development of his perfumes and allows some quality. So there are a few exceptions, but there's a lot. The reason is that we are paying merchandising and profit to the brand, and just like music, people should function the same way. Sorry for
Yes.
talking so long, but I hope
No.
people understand how the things work, and we want it to work another way for perfumery with capital P.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And there's no need to apologize. This is everything we need to hear. Seriously. I mean, it makes so much sense. And it goes back to what you're saying about if people were educated on quality, on what quality is or what it can be, then they would challenge what they're being given. And we wouldn't just pay these surged prices for what we're told what it is, and it isn't what it seems. So that's so profound. I want to take a step in a slightly different direction, talking about the positive side of ethics in perfumery and some of the positive forces within that. And I'm curious, in terms of corporations, obviously the governing body for perfumery globally would be IFRA and all of their affiliates, the regional affiliates and whatnot. I mean, I guess in terms of their guidelines and their policies, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you and your brand Zoo, you are an affiliate with IFRA, is that correct?
Yes, I
Yeah.
follow IFRA
Yeah.
for everything that I put on the market. So
Yes.
artistic project is different, but yes, I can explain why.
Yes.
But yes.
Yeah. So do you feel that the vision of IFRA that they're trying to put forward through those who collaborate with them as perfume makers, do you feel like that is something that is contributing positively to the industry, and maybe we would be better off if, I don't know, if more of that was happening, or if everyone could be involved under this umbrella that IFRA has created?
So I have to say the IFRA is a help to the perfumer because one fact of life is that some ingredients are nasty for the skin.
Yes.
So if you put saffron, I didn't want to believe. I was like, okay, so you put saffron on your skin, it's a molecule found in roses, damascones. You put them on your skin like 10, 20 times more than what they allow. It scratches you. And then if you put natural bergamot, which is the main reason why people think we cannot use fragrance in the sun, but that's not true till the 70s. But pure bergamot in the sun, you damage your skin like really, really, really bad. So it's not a joke. So we do need those tables that tells us, voila, if it's for a shampoo, because the shampoo you rinse, so you can put more in the shampoo than in a body lotion where you don't rinse. In a fine fragrance is different, in a candle is different.
Yes.
So we have these tables, depending on the category, that tells us, voila, you can put maximum this much of cinnamon, this much, this molecule. Bon. So we do need those tables. I do respect them. Now, I want to challenge them on 2 or 3 points. So I've started to do that. So, but that gets more into an expert things. One of them is, for instance, natural jasmine. I still don't believe we cannot use more natural jasmine than what's been restricted lately. But so there are a few points like that to challenge. But grosso, in the big realm of things, I think it's a good thing. Plus, as a niche perfumer, but even as a corporate perfumer, you don't want to start being into some litigations where a consumer may have an issue, and if you're not IFRA, it's going to be very difficult for you to justify, unless you have your own medical team, to justify that you've done it. Voilà.
Yes.
No. And for me, IFRA is not the danger of perfumery. Even the moss, the moss that is still IFRA is actually pretty good, I find. And the moss story, the problem was the EU. The EU is a nightmare for perfumery. California is a nightmare for perfumery. Canada is a nightmare for perfumery. China, Australia. So it's more what certain countries do here and there because they don't know. And they make some laws at times that are a bit wacko.
Okay.
So in fact, at the zoo, I have a few fragrances where I say this one we cannot sell in China, and I'd rather keep the fragrance the way it is and say I cannot sell it into China, or I have another one I cannot sell into Canada, rather than preventing the whole world of smelling that fragrance because one country has a cuckoo law for whatever reason. So now big brands don't dare doing this because they want one fragrance to sell in all countries, or they don't want to pass the Chinese market, for instance. But I'm like, no, we have to start showing people that perfumery has to be, the laws for perfumery has to be different. And I know IFRA is working a lot with different countries. For instance, now they're working with India to try so that the Indian laws are more consistent with IFRA. And so we have only one set of laws for around the world so that it's easier for the perfumers and more consistent and more science-based than sometimes not really scientific based. So, but I know, I think with IFRA, I'm quite okay, actually. I'm quite okay. As I say, 1 or 2 things I'm going to challenge, but
yes,
it's more expert stuff.
It makes sense. I understand. And that's what I figured. I mean, I feel like the vision that they are putting forth is for, being safe with perfumery. And obviously, if we're dealing with just the very nature of we put these things on our skin, it's like that's so important. I totally get that. And in that regard, it makes me think about very small independent perfume brands. And, for instance, I know there's an affiliate, I think it's the Fragrance Creators Association, which is for North America, essentially. And I know they work with IFRA. They are like kind of, a smaller regional.
So they are even more like lobbyists for the fragrance industry because we haven't had good lobbying for the longest time. And that's also why we get those laws from California that are totally wacko for perfumery. They don't make sense. They make sense for the gasoline industry. And then it has a consequence in the perfumery industry because we use some molecules, but they don't make sense for us. And if you don't have a lobbying, you know, I don't know any industry that doesn't have lobbying. So if you don't have a good lobbying, then some things, as I say, we come up, like California comes up with those laws that are totally crazy for us. And sometimes they're even against naturals. And like lavender or cedarwood, oh, it's true. And so you're like, yeah, because there was nobody there to say, well, guys, we need an exception for the fragrance industry because what you're saying this, it means we cannot use lavender anymore. So I understand about gasoline, but so because it so happens that a few molecules are the same in gasoline and in lavender, but it's not my fault, you know? So, but it does happen that way. So it's like, okay, can you still allow lavender? Because, well, so we need, so the French creators, the French Conservatory, I think, is called in Washington, D.C. They want to do some actions to educate the public, but also to educate the lawmakers. And or for instance, when there is the embargo that the current administration wanted to do with certain products from Europe, like the wine and the camembert, well, the lobbying in Washington say, wait, but don't do it on the rose and jasmine because it's going to damage your own people inside the US because there is no rose and jasmine from the US. So, and we cannot just remove it from the perfume industry. So, voila. So we need this kind of stuff. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. You know, and again, I wonder about, I mean, just what do you think about, again, smaller independent perfume brands, and obviously becoming, you know, a certified member in IFRA's network, it costs money, right? I imagine it's a pretty substantial sum every year. I mean, I know at the very least for, if you're in North America, to join the Fragrance Creators Association, I think it's like at least $4,000 a year or something like that for a brand, for membership in that. And there's some brands that, at least to start out, they just simply cannot afford that, you know, and I guess, what do you think about that? Because some brands will obviously just continue to create and they just sell independently, you know, maybe just through their website or whatever. And obviously, there's no real regulation happening maybe on their products because, again, they cannot afford membership and afford to be certified in that way.
So that, I have to say this, I'm not so much aware. I know that the French Conservatory and IFRA are looking into this issue of smaller brands, how they should become a member or how they can say they apply IFRA principles. Because to apply IFRA is a declaration. It's not just being a member. You have or how there can be some affordable software available. I have to say I'm not so aware of where it stands at the moment. I know on the IFRA website now they mentioned some software that people can use. The membership to the French Conservatory has nothing to do with the membership to IFRA. So again, it's two different things. I'm in touch with them, but I'm not sure where that stands. I know we had a few discussions last year. I don't know. I have to say, I don't know much about that.
No, I understand. That's okay. Yeah, you know, I think about, you know, because brands are springing up, you know, every year, new brands are coming, and especially independently so. And, you know, I guess we're trying to usher them into the current ecosystem in a safe way. And again, unfortunately, it does come at a cost because, you know, people need.
So the number one thing, so this I haven't communicated much, but it's my fault. I need to do it very soon. One thing I want to say, that the first thing that people should do, and they will get more information and also they will have a bigger force, is for any perfumer. So a perfumer being defined as a person who composes music, a person who composes a perfume. It doesn't mean you went to ISIPCA. It doesn't mean you did 5 years at Firmenich. It doesn't. A perfumer, just like in music, is someone who actually writes perfume formulas. Right?
Yes.
So any perfumer can become a member of the International Perfumers Association. So that costs €400 a year as a professional fee, but these are very well spent. So this is news, and so that's very new. Even it's called the SIPC. is a very new organization. They had to establish themselves. It's very complex because it's never been done before. And so they spent the past 2-3 years determining already how to bring on board perfumers that were like more obviously perfumers or more known. Plus there are some other general operating agreement stuff and in which area should we go. And so like, for instance, ethics is one area we've decided to go. Another one is copyright enforcement. So that's also complex. So now the next stage, and they've just put out a questionnaire which I have to send to all the perfumers that I know in the niche world. So I need to do it actually now. But we want every perfumer, as we say, it's someone who actually writes perfume formulas to answer this questionnaire so that we see what the SIPC can do for everybody. We also want to define, how do you define who is a perfumer? What I've been saying a little bit here, but we want to have the status or the charter of the perfumer, like you have the charter of the doctor and things like that. And so by being a member, then you will be aware of these things, your voice will be heard, and also people will communicate how they do, because some of those niche perfumers are following IFRA. And for instance, Patricia de Nicolai in France, and some other people, bon, I know less, but I know they have they're independent and they have their own system to follow IFRA. So people can share all this. So this is one thing. I need to send the email. People can also contact me so that I send them the email with a questionnaire from the SIPC, and they should contact the SIPC to become a member. And when you are a member of the SIPC, you're a member of the International Association, and you can be at the same time, within those $400, a member of your local association. So if you're in America, you're both a member of the American Association and the SIPC. If you're in France, you're both a member of the SIPC and the French Association. So that's very new, because before it was, what's new too is that I think now, I don't know the calculations, but about now, you probably have now more niche perfumers in the world than you have corporate perfumers. It was totally not the true till now for the past 200 years. I mean, let's say 100 years. So this is a new development. But any creative industry has more independent creators. You have more independent musicians than you have corporate musicians.
Totally.
You have more independent chefs than you have corporate chefs. You have more. So this means this is an industry that is growing in creativity, in different ways of doing business, different ways of creating. So this is very good. And we do need an organization where we know where to find the information, or where they can also diffuse information to us, or how to defend us also, because that's what we need. We were never independent to defend us. And the fragrance remember, the fashion brand don't have an interest of defending the perfumers, and they don't. They never fight with the authorities to use more jasmine in perfumes. The fashion brands have never fought for us, because they don't even know perfumery. The members of IFRA are not the fashion brands. The members of IFRA are the fashion houses, but we depend on the marketers, which are fashion brands and which are groups like L'Oréal and Coty and Interparfum. These are the three big groups that concentrate a lot of fashion and jewelry brands, but they are not perfumers. And so the music interests are defended by musicians and music composers and singers. The music interests and the notes and the are not defended by the shoemakers and the fashion brands. It's normal. It's normal. It's not in their interest to put money in there. So we have to reverse that to defend perfumery. We have to reverse that.
Yes. I mean, it is interesting how congruent it is, especially in the music industry. Those at the top, generally, who, you know, the larger companies with the most revenue and whatnot, that seem to be the targets for many musicians, those people aren't necessarily the ones who know music or truly care about the rights and the well-being.
They're not the ones fighting for, but it's you cannot. if we take Sony, and what are the big groups? Sony, Universal, and voilà. So these are big groups. So Sony is going to fight, for instance, now for copyrights because it's in their interest. But you cannot
Yes.
ask Sony to fight for some things that are more really for the musicians. You know, you cannot ask a corporation to fight for things that are not in their interest.
That's
Also,
right.
you cannot ask a corporation to fight to pay musicians more because it's not the interest of Sony to pay the musicians more. But you know what I mean? I mean, it's fair enough, okay? So, but it's the same. It's not in the interest of Jimmy Choo to give more money to the perfumers and the chemists and the farmers. It's in their interest to be the cheapest with them so that they make their bigger profits because they are a merchandising company, you know? So it's the same when Beyonce sells a t-shirt on Times Square that says Beyonce. It's not in the interest of Beyonce to make that t-shirt the most expensive for fashion. It's to buy the cheapest t-shirt to sell it the most expensive. For the Yankee cap, it's to buy the cheapest cap, you write Yankee, and to sell it the
Yes.
most expensive because it's a Yankee. So it's the same with Yves Saint Laurent, it's the same with Jimmy Choo. You buy the cheapest perfume you can, you write Yves Saint Laurent and Jimmy Choo, and you sell it the most expensive for Yves Saint Laurent and Jimmy Choo to get the biggest profit.
Yes.
I mean, good for them, good for them. And the fashion industry has been very good at using perfumery and at keeping this whole thing like that. But now, fine, that's fine. And some perfumes are great there. And it brings money to everybody because everybody knows Yves Saint Laurent. But now the public has to know perfumery more, and the
Yes.
public has to know where to find good perfumes, and we have to be as famous. Bon, Guerlain did it very well. It's a fragrance brand. We have to have more of these brands where the public goes there and knows that what they have in the perfumes, they know that there is a lot of money going back to the farmers, there is a lot of jasmine, there is a lot of this and that, and there are different creativity as well. Voilà. The public should know about that and be allowed to choose what they want to choose in consequence.
Yes. I mean, if someone could go and pick up a bottle of perfume in the department store and spray it and this doesn't smell like quality. And then if we just, I mean, it kind of starts from the bottom up. If people can know and understand and then not spend their money, then a change would have to be made. It would
And
ripple up, hopefully.
yeah, and some people, they see that, but then they think, oh, maybe it's me who doesn't know because they're not trained nose. You know, huh? In
Yeah.
music, people know much more. And so they say, but I've heard this before. Or this sounds like a cheesy kitsch song, or it's kitsch, but I like it, or it's kitsch and cheesy. You know, you can have
Mm-hmm.
kitsch both ways. Or say, oh my God, this is so interesting. Oh my God, this is cool. Or, well, the public knows. In perfumery, they say, but Christophe, this is the same, but they don't dare saying the same because every brand is saying, oh, it's brand new and chic. But
Yes.
some of it they can see.
Yeah.
And some of it, when they start knowing certain things, they're like, oh yeah, no, but this is easy, or I've smelled this before. So the public can still make certain differences.
Mm.
I find. Plus, we need to train the salespeople more because they're also very influential when you buy, you know. So the niche perfumeries are very good because they have better trained people. And so the public likes that too. So
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, and I have done, for a limited time, I did sales in a department store for perfumes,
ah,
uh, and it was kind of a strange way I got into it. I was looking for just some part-time work doing it just because I wanted to do it and try. And so I was brought in, and I was, I mean, all I can say is I was the only one there on the floor who actually would consider themselves like an enthusiast of perfume at the very least. So working alongside some of the other associates, I mean, I totally agree. It's like I would just kind of eavesdrop and listen, and and you see what actually works with customers, and it's kind of sad. It's like, why? How is this working? Like,
yeah,
it's like it has aquatic notes and wood, and it's like the Calabrian coast in Italy, and that's what we're going for. And then the customer's just wild, like, wow, you're right. Okay, here's my $95. And it's like, ugh, okay. And it just works, and it just keeps working. But as you said, it's not absolute, you know, especially as niche perfumery continues to grow, and becomes more accessible. The hope is that, more people are exposed to it and they realize, I mean, I think we all have this experience, especially as just connoisseurs, when you first come across niche perfumery and it's like, oh, this is what it is. Like, this is actual, like, artistry and love and quality in perfumery, and they're not just trying to make money. They are trying to make money because they want to keep making perfume, but that is, the artistry is at the forefront.
The
Yeah.
tough thing is that in commercial perfumery there are some good fragrances, but it's hard for people to find them. The thing in niche perfumery is usually when people go to the niche stores, like some people I'm seeing in the comments are asking, how can we find good fragrances?
Yes.
Well, the problem is that it's hard. And the problem is that you have to train your nose. You have to, so maybe take a few classes, number one,
Hmm.
so that you know some ingredients or you know what's easy to do because you will smell it everywhere. Then usually when you go to a niche perfumery, you have someone there that is a bit more trained, more specific, and so spend more time with you as well. And usually in niche perfumeries, they are not paid. Like if you go to a department store, even if you want a certain perfume, they will deviate you to Chanel or maybe
Yes.
Saint Laurent, one of those, because they get a bigger commission. And
Hmm.
so they say, no, 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 but don't buy this. Here, take Bleu de Chanel. It's similar and it's better. But it's better because the wallet is much better for the salesperson. Don't forget that too.
Yes.
Huh? So
Yes.
there are some commercial perfumes that are excellent, but they are swamped in a sea of this duty-free, smelly stuff. Huh?
Mm.
And so it's harder to find. Plus, the sales assistants there have different agendas or are not well trained. And it's not their fault, because I do know brands that don't want to train their sales assistant properly. So this I know very well. They forbid them to smell ingredients. They forbid them to meet perfumers. They forbid them to go to labs where their perfumes are developed. So how can you be trained in music if you've never been to a music studio? I've never met a musician. I mean, please.
Yes. Yes.
So I've never listened to the guitar alone, then the trumpet alone, then the harpsichord alone. Then, I mean, you have to be trained a little bit. So, but if you go to a niche perfumery, you will hear different things. Now, there are some niche perfumes, of course, that are crap too. But I think you will see a bigger variety. You will see certain things that are more raw. So when it's more raw, you start making your opinion better. Um,
Mm.
and as I say, you will hear maybe a different language. And then try to read the La Revue. It's in English, in Italian, in French, obviously. But they try to explain things very well. There are not many books yet about things. Well, the guide by Lucas Turin, if Lucas Turin gives many stars, there must be something about it. And then there is another perfume guide. Oh man, I forgot. By this gentleman. Oh, I forgot his name. I just got the guide. There's another guide also. So there are like two guides in perfumery. So
Mm.
if you take the best rated ones, there must be something. Huh? And
Yes.
start to smell like that. And if it smells like a vanilla pudding or like this tutti frutti bubble gum thing, and that you smell that everywhere, or it smells again like cool water. So cool water was cool. But after 1,000 cool waters, well, man, you know that, okay, I mean, give me a break. Or if it smells like your grandfather, or like, again, like a cologne in Italy, well,
Yes.
some are nice, but so there's a lot of the same. Or
Yes.
compare. And then the thing is compare, compare, compare. And that the salespeople in a niche perfumery, they will compare with you several colognes. Whereas in a store, they won't compare with you the Chanel cologne with the Santa Maria de Novella cologne, with the Tom Ford cologne. You see what I mean? They won't take
Yes.
you through all the stores at Macy's. They will just take you the ones they cater for. So
That's
you
right.
have to you go to the Tom Ford, you spray Neroli Portofino. You go to Santa Maria del Novella, you spray another one. You go to Atelier Cologne, you take another one. the stores, they hate when you do that. You have to do it. You see, no, I'm fine, I'm fine.
Yes.
I do my own thing, I choose my own thing.
Yes.
Voilà.
I
Compare
agree.
the patchoulis, compare the oud in the store. You will see how it's night and day when they say oud. But you have to do that yourself. Compare, compare,
Yes.
compare.
Would you recommend people try to obtain raw materials and just train in that way from home?
So I know some people don't like when I say that, but yes, I'm sorry.
Mm.
If you're in cooking, you've never had lobster alone. If you've never had truffle alone, if you've never had garlic alone, you know, you don't have to know 3,000. I mean, like I have 1,300 ingredients. You don't need to know 1,000 ingredients. But
Mm.
have you smelled angelique? Do you know what angelique seed smells like, or angelique root? I think it's super interesting. And I guarantee you, when you smell angelique sous la pluie, you say, oh yeah, I see it. And then see, I get the goosebumps because this note is rare to see in perfumery, but I love it very much. And then smell vetiver. Have you smelled vetiver pure? And then you will see that in half the vetivers that are on the market, they don't smell of vetiver, or you look for them. And why? Because it's expensive, for instance. Or why? Because it's taken over by some other notes. Or why? Because they put too much of the old-fashioned barbershop smells, and so it destroyed the vetiver, actually.
Mm.
So you will appreciate more. Yes, you should. But just like in music, I think if you've listened to, you know, the violin, the alto, the contrabass, I don't know in English all these
Yeah.
terms,
Yes.
you've listened to them one by one, you appreciate them more when you have a composition. I mean, there's no discussion about that. I find if you've looked at different flour, if you're in cooking and you really like in baking, you know that when you've tasted different flours and you see their effects, I guarantee you, you're much more picky when you choose your pasta. You know, even something
Yes.
blanc la pasta. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
exactly the same. So, yeah, and as I say, perfumery is an expensive art, and perfumery is full of logistic. So it's the beauty of it, and it's the nightmare of it. But that's also
Yes.
what it takes. If you people were asking, how do we see quality? Some of this you have to know. Another style about quality is
Hmm.
about this long lastingness.
Hmm.
So some perfumes, me as I see, they drop after 2 hours, and I know it's not because you should respray. Yeah, fine. Then if you're fine with that, but I know it's because the perfumer did not know how to make it long lasting because it's a big know-how, or because
Mm.
the brand did not have the money. So when some long lasting notes, some things you really need to have some money, some budget. It's one reason, and not the only one. But I know
Mm.
some of it is because it just collapses. So you can say, I'm building a house, it collapses after 6 months. That's fine if it's a little hut in the forest. You know what I mean? It's still cute. But some, you know, it's because they didn't know how to build a house, and or they didn't
Yes.
want to put the money into it. So it's the same. We can debate, but
That's
that's another
so
quality
interesting.
style, you know. And then some it doesn't have to be original, but as I say, when I see this angelic seed really coming out, and then it's not so bitter, but it's well wrapped, I'm like, oh, this is really well done. It's really well done. So you can appreciate different things, but you have to know a little bit. You have to know a little
Yes.
bit.
Yeah, and that really comes down to, I guess, as we've talked about, having credible sources of information that the public can go to. You know, because it does seem like kind of across the board in many industries, they profit off of keeping us uneducated on a wide scale. And it is up to us individually to go out and educate ourselves. And that can be a very overwhelming task. And it can be hard to know where to start and where to go and what to believe and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Well,
Yeah.
in the internet, you can buy now very easily, which was not true 10 years ago. So people should appreciate that. Go on the internet. To smell, you need a tiny bit, you see, a tiny bit of this. So you go on the internet, you buy ingredients, you buy 1 milliliter or 2 milliliter, the tiniest amount when you just want to smell. And there are many websites. The ingredients are very good. And you just buy that. You have to smell Jasmine Absolute once in your life, so that
Mm.
next time you go somewhere and you say, oh, you know, it's based on this beautiful jasmine from India. Smell it. And if you don't smell Jasmine Absolute, it's called bullshit. That's it. So That's it. And so,
Yes.
because it's easy to do a cheap jasmine, a nice cheap jasmine is easy, but the jasmine absolute style is more complicated. Bon, voilà. So just dip a little bit. 1 milliliter usually it costs $5, $10, sometimes $15 for 1 milliliter because it's expensive ingredient. But bon, you can buy a few, and then you can share with other people. Like your friend buy 10, you buy another 10, you share them, you have 20 right there. And a few things like that. Buy some molecules. That's another way to do it. Now we should continue on the positive side of the ethical of the perfume industry,
Yes.
where we are very different from fashion, and which is about the ingredient themselves. So fashion has some really big trouble in terms of sustainability, and they know it very well. And it's not just me saying it. This is well published in Women's Wear Daily, in Beauty Fashion, in all these professional magazines. The fashion world recognizes very well, they know very well that they have some big issues between who is picking the cotton in China, like the Uyghur are very famous to pick the cotton. Well, we know the situations of the Uyghur in China, but and there are many other things that come into fashion beside cotton. So from the plantations, the rules in the plantations, the labor in the plantations, and cotton, it's like thousands of acres of cotton. So it's hard to check. Plus, there are many filters. The people, it's not Armani that goes to China to check the cotton plantation. You know, then they have the weaving. I think it's called the weaving factories or sweatshops in Bangladesh, in India. And then they make the fabric, the rolls of fabric. And then they have representatives selling that fabric in Italy, let's say. And then, so there are a lot of filters. Plus at every stage. And as I say, it's thousands of places. So you can check one, but how do you know if there's no child labor in the next one? So we are totally different from the fashion industry. And so because I hear people in perfumery, oh, this big corporation, and then how are the farmers treated and stuff? Well, I have to say the perfume industry, since that IFRA came up in the 70s, where they cleaned up the molecules, and then since Monique Remy, because there was a big difference that she made in Grasse, Monique Remy came as a scientist, actually, a chemist, came to Grasse in the 80s and cleaned up a little bit the pseudo-scientific speeches of Grasse. I have to say we've been very sustainable in the fragrance industry because, number one, you can go and visit the jasmine plantations. It's not thousands of acres. It's not, you can see quite a bit. The Rose Valley in Bulgaria, it's quite concentrated. The rose plantations in Turkey, the rose plantations in Morocco and Grasse are even smaller. So people are welcome to go. They can see who is working in the fields. It's not children. Or you can see how the farmers they bring the flowers, how it's weighed, how they are paid. So in fact, it's much more transparent.
Yes.
Now we also, in terms of ingredients, if you pollute a river with heavy metals that you use in dyeing fabrics, you don't see them. But then you have the sea or the rivers that are polluted, or the river is brown, or bon.
Yes.
But if you pollute a river with first ingredient, it stinks or it smells. So,
Christophe, sorry, just to interrupt you, I apologize. Instagram is about to kick us off in about 10 seconds.
Oh.
So if you want, we can just come back. I'll just start a new stream.
Yeah, let's
we can
finish
come back
that
and
because
continue.
it's important. People have to know what is good about the fragrance industry that we've cleaned up already.